Yes, welcome everyone. It's Cannabis News. I'm your host, Joe Klare. It is a new week here at the Marijuana Times. It's September 16th, 2019. The show, of course, is brought to you by the Marijuana Times. MarijuanaTimes.org is where you can find us. Today, we're talking about medical marijuana in Alabama. Also, California. How good of a job have they done in rolling out retail recreational marijuana legalization? Not well. Spoiler alert. I know you're supposed to say spoiler alert before that, but it's really not a spoiler alert. You already know this. Also, a new study about crime near pot shops after legalization, how it's affecting crime. Is it going up? Is it going down? Is it staying the same? All of these things will be discussed. But first, of course, Cannabis News is brought to you by Natureside, nature-side.com, and their organic, all-natural pesticides. Grow safe and poison-free with Natureside. Don't use harmful chemicals on what you are growing. Don't use banned pesticides. Be regulatory compliant in the state that you are growing in, whether you're growing cannabis or something else. Natureside is what you need. Nature-side.com, a proud sponsor of Cannabis News. Thank you, Natureside. This first story is by Julia Granowitz at MarijuanaTimes.org. Alabama MMJ commission doctor says marijuana can't be called medicine. Long story short, the attempt at medical marijuana legalization in Alabama this year resulted, unsurprisingly, in a study commission. The favorite tactic of those who really don't want to do anything about a problem or make anything better or improve anything. They will put together a study commission to really take a deep look at the issue. One of the commission members in Alabama is Dr. Stephen Taylor, psychiatrist who specializes in addiction, children, and adolescents, said marijuana is not a medicine and that we should find something else to call it. Quote, if it hasn't been validated as a medicine, we shouldn't be calling it medical marijuana or medical cannabis, Taylor said. And the idea that we would just put something out there and call it medicine for the people of our state to use when it really isn't a legitimate medicine, that concerns me. That means we are taking a chance at causing more harm than good, and that's the opposite of what we're supposed to be doing. Okay, a few obvious things about this. I'm not going to go into, Julia covers it perfectly, the obvious problem with the fact that you don't want to call marijuana medicine, and yet millions of people every single day use marijuana for that very purpose, and they use it quite successfully as a medicine. But beyond all that, here's my problem with this, beyond the obvious problem, is the narcissism it takes to say that, well, even though millions of people are using this as a medicine and it's working for them, it can't be validated as a medicine until a certain regulatory agency weighs in and approves it. Now, for most, and I'm sure Dr. Stephen Taylor is the same, that agency is the FDA. The FDA has approved drugs over the years, and they're still approved. They kill tens of thousands of people every year. Marijuana, of course, kills no one. There's never been a recorded instance of overdose and death on marijuana in the entire history of marijuana. It's pretty extensive history. I mean, with the amount of people using marijuana now, you would think one of these people would just smoke way too many blunts and they would just keel over and die. Still, hasn't happened. So to say it's not a legitimate medicine, it hasn't been validated as a medicine, simply because some federal agency, say the FDA, which is populated by former pharmaceutical executives, has no more claim on the truth than any other entity or organization in the world. Just because it hasn't gone through those steps, and the FDA says it's a medicine. The narcissism that it takes to say, well, the FDA hasn't said it's medicine, so it's not medicine. Ignoring everything else. Without that stamp of approval from a regulatory agency that has approved medicines that kill tens of thousands of people every year, without that special approval, it's not a medicine. It's ignorant. It's ignorant. And it's offensive. If I was capable of being offended by things, I would be offended by that. But I'm really not. So I can just say that Dr. Stephen Taylor is ignorant of marijuana. And is ignorant of the medical uses that people put it to every year. And of course, that person is on a study commission about medical marijuana in Alabama, which shows you, really in a nutshell, how worthwhile study commissions for things like medical marijuana are. If you couldn't get my sarcasm there, I believe they are not worthwhile. Thank you. I'll explain my sarcasm just in case. This next story is from Reason.com. It's a really great title as well. California has completely crapped the bed rolling out legal marijuana. As a writer, I really enjoy a well put together headline. And that is one. I don't know if that's from Reason's editors or Scott Shackford, the writer of the article. I don't know, but either one. It's top notch. Kudos to you. Thanks to high taxes and overregulation, California reportedly has 3 times as many illegal marijuana dispensaries as it does licensed shops, and that's probably an undercount. The numbers, 873 legal versus 2,835 unlicensed, come from a marijuana dispensary trade association that made its calculations by looking at who is advertising on Weed Maps, a site helping pot users order marijuana from dispensaries online. There's probably more than a few unlicensed dispensaries out there who don't advertise on Weed Maps either. So basically, the legal dispensaries in California, they can't compete with the illegal dispensaries. There's many more of the illegal dispensaries. They don't pay taxes. They don't have the regulations, the regulatory costs, so they can sell marijuana for much, much less. These people like the United Cannabis Business Association and others, they have a problem with that, obviously, because it's undercutting their legitimate legal businesses. They feel like they went through the motions and the steps needed to get that license, and they should be rewarded instead of being punished for having gone through the steps to get that license, which it seems like they are being right now because they're being clobbered by the illegal market. And they want to force sites like Weed Maps to stop advertising these places and take various steps like that, various prohibitionary steps. And that may alleviate the problem slightly, but if we learned anything about marijuana prohibition, is that it doesn't stop people from buying illegal marijuana. Even if you get rid of all 2,800 unlicensed dispensaries, I don't think I'd be telling tales out of school here to estimate that there's at least tens of thousands of illegal dealers in California that sell marijuana. I don't know. I mean, it could be less, could be more. I have no idea. But in a state that has tens of millions of people, I'm thinking tens of thousands of people selling marijuana is a pretty conservative estimate. And prohibition is not going to do much about that. They don't advertise on Weed Maps or whatever, so they have their clientele, word of mouth, things of this nature. The obvious fix to this problem is to allow more people and more competition into the legal market, reduce the regulations and the taxes so the prices are able to come down, both through the reduction of taxes and regulations and the increase in supply, and undercut the illegal dealers. I know I've said this a million times. All other things being equal, people would rather buy legal marijuana. If it's a good variety, a good price, it's convenient, it's not a hassle to go in there and buy it, they would rather go into a legal spot or have a legal spot bring it to them or whatever. They would rather do it legally. But if the price is much, much lower on the illegal side, they're going to keep going to the illegal side. You can take whatever half measures you want, whatever prohibition-like measures you want. If history's taught us anything, is that they will only work to a certain small extent. And what they end up doing in the end is restricting supply on the illegal side just enough to kind of inflate prices some, which draws more people into the illegal side, more investment money, more people wanting to sell illegally. And it's kind of a cycle that just continues to go. The more you restrict the supply, the more prices go up, the more profits there are, the more people come into the business, and you start all over again. So helping the legal businesses lower their prices should be the focus. But of course, it's not the focus. They're going to do other things that won't help as much, if at all, which is really par for the course, I guess, at this point. And they'll continue to bemoan the fact that, the black market continues to survive legalization. Of course it does. The economic incentives for people to come over to the legal market are still not there for the most part. So guess where they're going to stay? Their guy. The guy in the cell phone under a name that's not his. Call him up or text him, say, dude, roll through. Are you holding? Slang of that nature. And that's where they'll stay because it's much easier and much cheaper. Why would you go to a business and spend much, much more money and get what they have there, we can just get the same thing from this guy you've known for 8 years, and he's got it. He's 5 blocks away. He'll bring it right to you. He'll probably just burn one with you. He'll match. Do people still match? I don't know. Is that still a hip thing? Did I miss that? Did I miss the matching era of cannabis use? I hope not. It's one of the better parts of it. This last story is from Chicago Sun-Times. Crime fell near pot shops after marijuana was fully legalized, Colorado's study shows. New research shows crime rates drop substantially in areas with marijuana dispensaries, running counter to fears that pot shops drum up crime. The study was published this month in the Journal of Regional Science and Urban Economics. I let my subscription to that lapse. That's a shame. I would have it in my hand. Analyzed crime data from Denver between January of 2013 and December of 2016. Colorado legalized medical marijuana nearly 2 decades ago, but they kicked off recreational sales, of course, in January of 2014. The study says, quote, the results imply that an additional dispensary in a neighborhood leads to a reduction of 17 crimes per month per 10,000 residents, which corresponds to roughly a 19% decline relative to the average crime rate over the sample period. While those findings are highly localized, Illinois State University criminology professor Ralph Weishit, that can't be his name, Weishit, Weisheit. If it's not Weishit, I'm sorry. But I'm really sure that's what it is. That's exactly what it looks like. I'm not making that up for comedic fodder. So, Ralph said the results could be, quote, magnified in Illinois. That's because the state's 610-page pot law prioritizes criminal justice and social equity and encourages the hiring of people from, quote, economically impoverished neighborhoods, is what Ralph had to say about the issue. Obviously, what they're just pointing out is that obviously people who have more jobs, there's more economic activity in the neighborhood, the less likely they are to commit crime. Economics and poverty are very much linked to criminal activity. Also, it's dispensaries, retail shops, they have private security, they have cameras, they have outside cameras sometimes, and there's really no reason to think that having a functioning business in a neighborhood is going to increase crime. I mean, if the people don't say, well, they built a bank down the street and crime is just shot through the roof because there's bank robberies every other day or whatever. There's not. Functioning, legitimate businesses, whatever they're selling, tend not to bring in crime. They bring in legitimate customers looking to buy legitimate products. And so to see a reduction of crime rates around dispensaries or even a stagnation of crime rates or whatever is not that surprising. There's no reason to believe that having a pot shop in your neighborhood would increase crime for any reason, unless someone is specifically robbing that place of business. But then, as I said, that can go for any business. Go from liquor stores up to banks to anyone who has any kind of cash or any kind of valuable products. They could be robbed. We don't say, well, we're going to close down all the banks and the jewelry stores because people rob them. No, we just have a thing called security. And the security will help with the crime around the neighborhood. As I said, the cameras outside. It's a nice little, circle of life, I guess. Don't sue me, Disney. I apologize. Thanks, everybody, for checking out the show. We're here 5 days a week, of course, on Cannabis News. Search the Marijuana Times on YouTube to find the video. Subscribe on there. You can find us on Apple Podcasts for the audio version of the show. We're also on marijuanatimes.org. Tons of great stuff at marijuanatimes.org. Thank you to Nature Side, nature-side.com, and their organic, all-natural pesticides. Thank you all for watching and listening today. We'll see you next time right here on Cannabis News.